Chuck, I'd like to ask you about the development process of the comic book itself. I mean, I would assume that an artist can't just sit down and start drawing the story straight out. There has to be a script.
Some can, but
Okay.
not everybody is a genius like that. Now, I think there's a typical process that they'll go through to sort of think through the ideas and lay this out.
Pre-production, that sort of thing.
I mean, it starts with a script, or at least a rough idea of what's supposed to happen as far as the action, and that's obviously done by the writer. And then they'll hand that off to the artist. And so usually the first step in the process to ultimately get to something like this is what we call thumbnails.
Yep.
And so here's an example for issue 21 of G.I. Joe, which Mike Zeck and John Beatty drew. Mike Zeck would lay out the entire sort of issue, panel by panel, in a really small format. As you can see, it's the same size as that, but ultimately you try to draw out every single little page on there.
Yeah.
And so this gives a sense of what the actions look like, where the characters are placed. It may have some more details there. I think he's trying to keep track of all the different characters. So if you look really closely, you can see sort of the names of who's where. And so this will help them establish what the shots might look like.
And not dissimilar to storyboards for a movie.
No, very similar to storyboards for a movie. It's really just to establish that.
Yeah.
And then the next stage would be what we call prelims of these. And so I'll show you here. Here's the final prelim for this particular page, which looks very much like what he finally landed on. So he would flesh it out, but he did this again for the entire story.
Yeah.
And it's actually funny. So I was talking to Mike while he was actually drawing the story, and I was like, "Hey, Mike, is there any way that I might be able to make an appearance in the story?" And so he's like, "Well, first of all, it's a silent story, so there's not going to be a lot of words." But what he was able to do is, for instance, if you look at the name of the arcade, it's Costas Arcade.
Oh, that's very cool.
Or Costas Corners Arcade. So he actually was able to sort of work me in, and I think I'm actually on. On this particular page, he drew me into the background, which you wouldn't see in the prelim, but in the final version, you actually do see.
The pride of your collection, I'm sure.
It is one of those. I take a lot of pride of making a cameo appearance. It's very rare to find anybody. You can find a lot of extras on movie sets, but not very easy to find
in the
yourself
comic.
in the comic
That's
book
right.
itself.
Very cool.
But I digress. But yeah, so I think they would lay out the entire issue with prelims, and so. Again, is another thing that collectors can collect is these prelims do exist a lot of times.
Yeah.
Frankly, in the olden days, they may have thrown these out because they didn't think there was a lot of value to these. But a lot of times there would be at least a prelim for a particular page or cover. I think cover was more common that you'll find that. And sometimes even the cover layouts were done by a different artist, and they would hand that design off to the final artist that would actually draw the cover. So you might find that interesting combo.
Well, it's great to see the progression the way you have it here.
Yeah.
And the fact that you have the full book in the thumbnail format, and then in the individual prelims, and then you have one of the final pieces of art.
Yeah, and this
Very
is a
cool.
photocopy. So obviously what he would then do is blow this panel up to the size of the final art, which you'll see here. And so this was actually the art. This is the pencils, but made a photocopy of the pencils before they were inked over. And so the inking actually occurs directly on top of the pencils. So the pencils ultimately don't exist, but this is what they would have looked like. And so a lot of times you won't necessarily find photocopy existence of what this looks like, and then the pencils will be gone.
Stage. Yeah.
But this is ultimately
But it represents the pencils for the purposes of this illustration. And this is not a blow up of the prelim. This is a one-to-one photocopy of the pencil art before it was inked over top.
Yep.
So it's thumbnails to prelims to pencil. In this case, we were using a photocopy to represent the pencil, but to pencil to final inked art.
That's correct. And we talked about the coloring process, I guess, for regular comics. In this case, it was digitally colored, as you can sort of see by the bright, vibrant colors here. So no original will exist. This would have been done on the computer. But that's what it took to get to this final page.